I'm Michael. I'm the partner marketing here at Justuno. And to start it off, I would love for our partners to introduce themselves. So Jason, let's kick it off with you.
Hey guys, my name is Jason. I'm the general manager at Anser. We're a customer journey marketing agency. So we specialize in the one-to-one marketing channels that you use with your customers. So things like email, SMS, data capture with platforms like Justuno, obviously SMS with people like Postscript, and creating, I guess, that one-to-one communications relationship that you can have with your customers.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Ryan, let's kick it off to you.
Yeah, hi. My name's Ryan Jones. I'm the operations manager at Moana Bikini. We're a female swimwear company that have been around for 10 years this year. And we work closely with Justuno on data capture and the guys at Anser on our one-to-one communication.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Gerard.
Hey everyone, my name is Gerard. I am a strategic partner manager at Postscript. Postscript, for those of you that don't know, is a SMS platform that allows brands to build effective two-way communication channels with their clientele. We currently work with Shopify and Shopify Plus merchants. And prior to joining Postscript, I worked at Shopify on the Plus side of the business for 3 years and have built my own dropshipping stores.
Great. Yeah. Technical expertise plus e-commerce expertise. That's awesome. Let's see. Great. So before we get started, I'd like to launch a quick poll to get some insight in how you people in the audience have experienced product drops before, whether it's fashion, streetwear, luxury brands, footwear, cosmetics, or anything else. You can build up hype and drop a product for practically anything. And so if there's something other, please throw it in the chat and we'd love to hear about it. I'm pretty sure the poll's going up now. Yeah. Product dropping is a pretty wide, you can kind of attach it to anything. It's attached to streetwear in particular, but you can dropping products goes for literally anything, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Food. Food, I love that. Yeah. All right, the results are in. So we got streetwear, a lot of fast fashion drops, luxury brand collections, footwear, sneakers, it's a huge one. Man, things like Yeezys, all that good stuff, those are just huge drops. Cosmetics, and awesome. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, guys. Yeah, great. So with that in mind now, we're going to be covering a few topics here today, primarily effective dropping strategies, how to build hype for your new products, and how that works, timing of product releases, because that's a huge factor around holidays, seasons, or however you structure your product launches throughout the year. And further, we'll be discussing how to keep your customers engaged, because for a product drop to be successful, you need engagement from your customers. And you need to keep their interest in the age of distraction. That's a very hard thing to do. And after all those, we'll be doing a quick Q&A depending on how much time is left. And then we'll have plenty of time to hear all your questions and get those answered for you. So I'd like to start this off. The first section, effective dropping strategies. And I would like to start this section off with Jason from Anser to kick us off. Jason?
Thanks, Michael. So I think the concept that we're talking about today is something that you probably, even if you've never really been conscious of it, is something that you probably have experienced several times throughout your life in sort of every area. I'm loving some of the things that are coming through on the chat, like toys and games, definitely, even food, some people are talking about. But yeah, I mean, basically all of this stuff revolves around that concept of a brand that you're probably engaged with, and that seasonality of something coming out. And there are lots of different approaches that we look at. I think scarcity is always a popular one. I'll leave Ryan to talk about that because it's something that he has a lot of experience in. But if you think about brands like Moana Bikini, like Supreme, that are really famous for having those limited edition drops that you really have to get in on. There's also that opportunity to bring some of that stuff back in the future as well, which can be very valuable as a brand, sort of resurrecting things that were limited editions from the past. But even as a more traditional e-commerce brand that's probably working on a larger product life cycle and has maybe some of the seasonal things, a lot of my advice really starts with looking at your content strategy and how you're going to be talking about that launch. So, if it is a summer collection launch, really looking at your content and thinking hard about, is this product going to be something that people are going to use on the beach, or are they going to be going to festivals and wearing, if it's maybe a fashion or accessories brand, or, if it is a toys brand, you're thinking about seasonality. Is this an outdoor toy? Is this an indoor toy? And trying to line up the messaging, that visual messaging from your content with the reality of what your customers are going to be looking for, because it helps them bridge that gap into really seeing those use cases and the context for them of actually, yeah, that's where I want to be engaging with this product. I want to be at the beach wearing that. I want to be at a festival wearing that. I want to distract my kids with that so I can, have a glass of wine on a Friday night. So really putting all that stuff in context for people is really going to help tie things over. And then other things I would say, which is something that's more and more of an issue these days, is thinking about the global nature of your customer base. If you're selling online, you almost certainly have people in other time zones now engaging with your brand. So something that we run across a lot is the communication of those drop times, making sure that you're talking in not just in terms of day and time, but using things like countdown timers, which Justuno do a great job of helping you do, things that are going to allow people to instantly put into context for them. 24 hours from now is exactly, this time tomorrow. Rather than having to look at something and saying, Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific, well, I'm in London, so that's actually my Friday at this time. Just simplify the messaging for people so that they can be there at the right place and the right time.
Absolutely. No, you touched on practically all of the core themes we'll be covering here today. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Timing and everything you said is exactly that. And that's why now that you covered kind of the broad strokes of it, Ryan, let's hop it off to you to kind of dive into a few of the specifics of what Jason just covered.
Yeah, for sure. So, our dropping strategies at Moana have always been linked to scarcity and exclusivity. Initially, it was because, we are a much smaller business than we are now. We can only afford to make X amount of product. So the people that were in on the ground floor would get them first and they'd disappear. And, we would then use the revenue we made from that to create maybe a slightly larger, product drop next time. And, over time, those drops have gotten bigger, but our customer base has gotten bigger, and the demand has sort of increased relatedly. So it's been a fun ride, but every drop along the way, that the product being scarce and exclusive has sort of followed us along. So we've just kind of run with it. It's allowed us to grow sustainably and really generate hype and demand in our customer base. So now we drop sort of limited, unique and really themed collections multiple times per year. They're on sale for a period of time before they might be gone forever. Thankfully, we've grown a little bit as a business over time, and as Jason touched on before, this growth, it's allowed us a bit of extra time and resources to maybe bring back some of those pieces that sold out really quickly before. And we do these things called throwbacks collections, bringing back old, really popular pieces that again themselves are limited and exclusive once more, and to test out the longevity of those designs, which has been really fun. And that scarcity means that our customers, which we dub the Moana Army, they collect and they store and they like to show off their bikinis to other potential customers and their friends, and it drives more hype for the next drop. So it's really like a cyclical process that's kind of never ending, and we're always trying to plan ahead and design, what's going to be on theme and on trend a few months down the track that's going to drive the hype for the next drop.
Absolutely, yeah. The thing about product dropping is, it's exactly, it's a cycle, and you want to be an upward cycle, especially too. And we'll touch on it later, but yeah, you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep them engaged, because you want to create that exclusivity, that scarcity, while continuing to grow and be fresh, which is tougher, but it's so you got to look at the short term and long term simultaneously. So I love to hear that. Gerard, let's kick it off to you for your thoughts on how to effectively drop products using SMS and other strategies.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about this subject, and I think for brands that want to really deepen the relationship with their client base need to move away from transactional engagements to more two-way communication, to actually get the clients actually feeling like they are engaged and have ownership over the direction of where the brand is going. And I really love this concept of ownership, getting the collective buy-in of the consumers that are shopping at your store to help dictate where the product is going to go, and then tying that into the ultimate new product launch. So I used to live in San Francisco, and there were a couple of brands that stood out to me when I was living over there, Taylor Stitch and Beta Brand. And what they would do is they would actually get their users to vote on new products. So I think voting and getting that feedback before a product launch is really crucial, because the customer feels like they have ownership at the end of the day of the product design, and they're actually more likely to buy from you if they feel like their voices have been heard. And one of the ways to actually start collecting that feedback is through SMS. So I shared a slide that you might want to show with Olipop, where one of the brands on Postscript, Olipop, they are a healthy soda. They fill their drink with botanicals and other natural herbs to market to the health conscious community. They were considering launching a new feature, or new flavors. And so they asked their VIPs, what flavor should they roll out with next? And the community then got to engage with text message, respond back with text, what flavor they preferred. And you can actually build out entire automations around the responses that you receive. So if you know someone wants the new blackberry flavor that you're going to be rolling out with, you can then segment that audience and have a specific product launch and campaign around them to keep your costs down in terms of money spent per message sent, while increasing your overall ROI. So you can see here, and one of the things that I really love about this campaign is that it comes from the founder himself, Ben. So SMS, you want to treat SMS like you would treat it as you were texting a friend, and having someone attached to the brand, not just the brand themselves, I think is a really smart idea. Having that spokesperson that someone says, oh, this is Ben from brand, so that they know who they're talking to. It carries Ben's voice. And then if you go to the next image, and he's asking what flavor you prefer, there it goes.
Yeah.
And so you use a keyword reply, and then our system is able to track that, and you can do further segmentation around that.
The importance of being genuine and that connection with your customer, I think, is crucial. And SMS it's a very personal and direct way to communicate with your customers, right? I mean, everyone has their phone, they're all checking it all the time. And so when you have the ability to, place your brand's voice and image right there, and I think SMS texts have something like a 95% plus open rate. It's huge, so they're going to see it, and you want it to be genuine and very real for your brand. And I think the Olipop example does just that. It's good. It provides value, provides incentive, and of course, it's respectful. I want to hop into our next section, which is the how behind building hype. The foundational principles. We kind of just discussed the what. So for this one, I think let's start off with Jason again, actually, to discuss how Anser, a agency, goes about the product drop process.
Sure. Yeah. So we've got, I guess, a couple of different approaches, and a lot of it comes down to the type of brand that you've got and what's appropriate for you. But I mean, something that is always a fantastic motivator is early access, particularly if you're a brand like Moana, for example, where there is that sort of limited edition. By being able to break your customers down, or your database down into sections, and maybe reward higher value customers with early access, can be a really, really great motivator. But there's other ways that you can gamify that process. And I think the gamification is probably the larger strategy there. But even looking at things like with Postscript, we've run really simple yet effective campaigns where ahead of a launch, we'll do something similar like what Gerard was talking about there with the voting. But we might use a more traditional channel like email, or even Instagram, for example, to drive people to a page where they can vote, but also give their mobile number. And then we'll have the incentive on the page of saying, if you do give us your mobile number, we'll actually give you 30 minutes early access, and you'll get a text message about when you can get in. So that gamification sort of gives people a very good reason to give their mobile number, which is often something that some people sort of want to hold a bit private. But I think the barrier that you're overcoming there is convincing people that if they give you that extra channel to communicate with them on, that you're going to get value from that channel. And that's the key sort of message, with particularly with something like SMS, that yeah, it's a bit more personal, but we're going to give you a little bit more value when you do hear from us via SMS. And then using early access to do that is a really great way to get those that permission. Another thing I would say is knowledge. The concept of knowledge as a value proposition in e-com is something that I think is overlooked, but it's actually hugely powerful when you're talking about a product drop. Giving people early access to lookbooks that show the different products in different contexts, mixing and matching, things like that can be very inspirational and can create a really great talking point amongst your customers. But also even doing simple things like releasing the pricing early. It gives people an opportunity to shop a little bit mentally ahead of the drop, get an idea of how much they're likely going to spend, builds that anticipation. But then you've also got the complete opposite strategy of that, which can be essentially just shutting your site down and being dead quiet. That mystery, if it's right for your brand and you've got an engaged sort of community, maybe a Facebook group where there are people that are having conversations regularly, by making a bold move like that, it can create a lot of mystery as well. And that in itself can create a lot of hype and a lot of conversation ahead of when you're doing your launch.
Completely agree with everything you said. Early access, that exclusivity nature, tapping into that, and keeping your customers informed. Knowledge is power, and that the more they know, or I guess sometimes what you let them know versus what you don't, kind of keeps that some psychology tactics in play. Gerard, let's hop to you about the how. I know SMS is very powerful and you can use it to provide some early access, timing, stuff like that.
Yeah, so one thing that I like to discuss with brands is when you're sending out campaigns, you want to be thinking about conditioning the next action. So you don't need to send just one message at the time of the product drop itself, because there are going to be a lot of people that were not expecting that drop. They might be in the middle of something. They had other priorities that day. And it's a really big wasted opportunity for you if you only think you're sending one message, you're doing a service to the client because you're not annoying them by sending them too many texts. Here's the thing that a lot of brands bring up too, is that they don't want to overwhelm the consumers that are on their list with text. But you have to think about SMS is that it's a double opt-in channel. The customer had to raise their hand once, but twice to say, I want to receive these messages. And as long as your messages are providing value, then it's okay to send multiple messages in a single campaign. And when it comes to a product drop, you could send out, for example, a message 2 days before the actual product drop is supposed to occur and say, hey, have your phone ready at 12 noon Saturday. We're going to be releasing this product at, we sold out within 30 minutes last time we launched a new product. In the meantime, though, check out our best sellers. So you can get people to go back to your site, check out bestsellers, add those items to the cart, and then when the new product comes, then also add the new product to the cart as well. So you can start to increase that average order value with a single campaign. And I think that's really powerful by setting the expectation that this new product is coming and then having another reason for them to come back to your site and get excited and get re-familiar with the brand.
Thanks for sharing that. Actually, in regard to SMS, we have some question from the audience. Takesha, she's struggling with privacy. So yeah, when they opt in to get SMS messages from you, how does the privacy element work there? You have to opt in, correct? And how does that system work?
So with PostScript, we are very big on TCPA compliance. We want to make sure that you are collecting phone numbers the correct way, because if you don't, you can be fined up to $500 per message sent. We prioritize compliance over everything else at PostScript. So when you set up the application for your store, we've taken all the proper protocol with our pop-ups to make sure that the language is properly formatted so that your clients understand that what they're signing up for is a marketing channel and they're agreeing to get messages. When they also sign up, they have to go through a double opt-in process. So that not only they're adding their phone number to the form, but they also have to send a reply with a little keyword phrase to say, okay, not only did you sign up, put your phone number in, but yes, I replied, I took a proactive action here, and now I'm actively subscribed. And they always have the ability to opt out. So as long as your unsubs rates are under 3-4%, that's a totally healthy unsubscribe rate. Unsubscribes are actually a good thing for you because it costs you less money and you're not going to be sending to people who don't want the messages. So it's a win-win if people unsubscribe, in my opinion, because ultimately with SMS, that doesn't impact your deliverability in the same ways an unsubscribe does with email.
Just a quick note on the unsubscribes. Yeah, one of the best things I ever learned was that rejection is actually one of the better things that can happen to you because it shows you what you're not doing, what you're doing wrong, and you learn more from failure than you do from success sometimes. And so, yeah, like you were just saying, Leroy, I hope that answers your question. To continue on with this section, let's hop to Ryan. To discuss this a bit more on building the hype. And I know you have some graphics, so let me know when you want to have those shared.
Yeah, sure. So I totally agree with everything Gerard and Jason have been discussing with regards to how to build hype. And we definitely implement a lot of the strategies they've spoken about. So early access, providing our customers with knowledge and power, is a really big one for us. So as I said before, we're quite cyclical in the way that we develop our collections and launch them. So when one's being launched, there's another one in development and there's another one being designed. So we're working on maybe 3 or 4 collections at once, and our customers know this and say they don't like what's being dropped now, they'll be looking forward to the next drop. So with that in mind, social media is sort of our home base. It's where we get a lot of our good feedback and where we live with our customers. So we empower them on our private and our public channels to get their opinions on what we should be designing for the next collection or a couple of collections down the track, and we really take those on board to the point where maybe an entire themed collection might be based on product feedback from customers, or maybe a few pieces we might introduce a new cut or a new color. So when those are coming together, maybe 6 to 8 weeks before the collection's actually launched, we'll start to tease things that we know they're going to like, or that we know they've given their feedback on. For example, we shot a studio shoot yesterday for a new collection launching probably late March, early April, and gave our models and our team open slather to start teasing that on their channels. And it didn't make it onto Moana's channels, but our customers follow our models and they follow us. And within a matter of minutes after the first post, it was on our private Facebook group going, look at this color, look at this cut. I can't believe they took our advice. It's coming finally. And, it might be 6 or 8 weeks away, but the hype's starting to build, even if it feels like to them that it's not planned. So they got in on the ground floor. They're in our private group and they saw the poll we may have posted about that. So they've got that power, they've got the knowledge. And they know that because they're a part of that private group, they're probably going to get early access, or if they're in the loyalty program, they might get first access. And maybe it'll sell out when it gets to, before it even gets to the public. So yeah, early access and knowledge is a big one for us. So
I can hop in right here, Ryan. We actually had a comment from the audience. Steve, he was curious in regards to having customers vote on products. They vote and the product comes out 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even longer later. You mentioned it's 3 to 4 weeks for Moana sometimes, but do you have experience in, say, longer term development cycles, or I guess the best practice timeline?
It works both ways. So often we might create a poll, but customers or our network, a private Facebook group is a lot of what I'm talking about here, because it's really powerful and you get really good engagement because it's not controlled by any algorithm. You're talking directly to them all the time. So they might create their own polls about things we haven't even thought of. So if that happens, it might be a new product might be 6 months away as the question was framed. So if it's a good idea and it's something we really want to do and try and rush out as fast as we can, rushing being 4 to 6 months, we just kind of that teasing element, we keep on top of it. So even if it's something we can't get to straight away, maybe we'll drop a hint that we're doing it, or we'll drop a photo that sort of alludes to it, and just reminding the customer, giving them that knowledge that don't worry, we're listening to you. We are taking action based on your feedback, and it's coming. Yeah, so here's a good example of one of our email campaigns, building the hype for a collection that's launching. So as we mentioned before, making sure that as a global brand, our customers know exactly the time that it's dropping for them. So this might have been accompanied by a social media countdown on Instagram or on Facebook that's dedicated to their time zone, but sort of LA, New York, and the UK are our key global markets, as well as East Coast of Australia. And most of our customers can kind of frame their time zone with those 4 listed. So yeah, like this would have gone out probably 2 weeks prior to launch. And before that, there would have been a lot of social hype as well, teasing and obviously sort of blatant launch dates. So yeah, this would have gone out 2 weeks before. There probably would have been another email about a week prior. And then, yeah, we do the same thing here for our restocks. So we plan for our launches to sell out. That's the goal for us, to really drive that scarcity and exclusivity. And then we'll do a series of restocks, which this email is promoting. And then again, the early access element here. So the first people that jump in and order will receive a free gift from one of our partners. So yeah, it's really sort of driving that, getting in early, finding out first, and knowing that the decisions that we're making are based on feedback directly from our customers.
Now, I want to jump in there because, as Ryan was saying, he designs his product launches for scarcity, and he expects them to sell out. I think you can do a lot of cool things for the people that don't get the opportunity to buy. So you can segment out in PostScript, for example, people who've clicked the link for that specific campaign but didn't buy. And you can follow up with the campaign saying, hey, we sold out. We know you didn't get a product. Don't worry, we got you covered. Here's an exclusive discount for this other collection. And you can give them a sort of complimentary runner-up prize to make sure that they are in the fold as well and they feel still taken care of, and aren't too upset that they didn't get that exclusive drop.
Yeah, for sure. It's something we've tried in the past, and also Ansen have helped us set up out of stock flows. So when a certain size or style's out of stock, there's a button you can click on to sign up to a flow that will introduce them, if they're not already, into our mailing list database. But then also the second that piece is uploaded, they'll get an email fire off. So even if we get a few returns back, we're pretty hesitant to put much on, because obviously that can say we only upload 2 or 3 products that have come back as a return, there might be 50 girls waiting for that email. So it's a balance to how badly do we want to sell those products that came back, and how badly do we not want to annoy people that might miss out again. So it's and obviously that is also impacted by how well that particular product or that particular collection is selling. So yeah, the goalposts are always moving.
Absolutely. Thanks for hopping in, guys. That's fantastic stuff. Yeah, I was just thinking this is kind of fitting into our next topic, which I just want to mention to be mindful of the time here. Our next one is about timing. And since we've already touched on it a few times, I want to go through it relatively quickly. And I would like to start with Jason for it, because timing, like you were just saying, like it's crucial, and sometimes it's like about how often. Sometimes silence is more powerful than constantly saying the same thing over and over. And some streetwear brands, for example, just like go almost radio silent for months, and then all of a sudden they're back up, and everyone wants to go back in because what's happening, So yeah, Jason, let's hear from you on how to time things.
Yeah, I think the timing is such a subjective thing, right? So I think it comes down to your brand and when you're ready. I think a big part of it is always, I would always recommend to a merchant not to rush a launch, because particularly if you put a lot of energy into building hype, the last thing you want to do is rush it out because you think you need to, and then you disappoint people on the delivery end. So I'd always say when it comes to timing, I don't think that there isn't like a magical date every month or a magical month every year that I would say target this time. I think it's going to be when you're going to be able to provide the best experience. But having said that, there's a lot to think about with major events in e-commerce, right? You think about dates like Black Friday globally nowadays, but Boxing Day in Australia and in the UK. These are traditional days where usually people are conditioned to expect big discounts from merchants, but it means that they're listening. It means that on those days in particular, they're ready for sales. But you can flip that concept on its head, and rather than offering major discounts on a new product release, you can use that hype and use that attention to release a new product line. And that allows you to get out to market at full price and not have to be cutting into your margins just to fit in with a traditional sales event. You can use something else that's going to drive engagement. The other thing I would say, and this is, I guess, more technical advice when it comes to thinking about when and where to do a drop, is actually looking at your website data. So if everyone's using Google Analytics or whatever it might be, looking at the time of day and day of week that your site is seeing the most amount of traffic. Like I said earlier, almost any level of e-commerce brand these days should expect that they're going to have customers globally. So using your analytics tools to think about, or I guess investigate, what times of days you're seeing peak activity, because you might hit on a real sweet spot. You could be a brand in America, and you might find that you've got people on the West Coast and people in London or in mainland Europe that are really engaged with the brand. And so you might want to pick a time of day that's going to be, friendly, early morning for those guys in Europe, but late in the evening, but not too late for the people across America, or vice versa. You think like Moana, something that we do with Ryan is, they've got clients in America. They've obviously got a huge customer base here in the Australia Pacific region and in Europe as well. So juggling that, it can help go a long way to creating a time of the day that is going to, no matter where your customers are, they're going to think, oh, well, I'm not going to have to set an alarm at 2 a.m. to get in. Otherwise, I'm going to miss out.
This reminds me of a brand like Supreme, where like I think it's 11 a.m. Eastern time that it drops every Tuesday or something like that, whenever there's a collection going, and it sells out within minutes. And yeah, people from across the world will be up at 2, 3 a.m., whatever time it is for them, to try and make the 3-minute window to get that T-shirt, to get that product. Adjusting it for people across the world, or just setting a hard one and making them kind of come to you. Legitimate strategies. Yeah, Ryan, let's jump to you on the same topic for timing. I know you guys do a cyclical structure of production and dropping, so it's while there are major days, like Black Friday, Christmas, you guys kind of follow your own sort of trail.
Yeah, so as a global brand, you'd think that as a swim brand, you'd be focusing on the warmer months around the world, but because when it's winter here, it's summer in other key markets. So we basically just focus on our design. We focus on launching great, unique products, no matter the time of the year, because it's always summer somewhere. Or girls can use a hot tub, or they can swim in a heated pool. It's about the product and not about the actual time of year or the usage case. With regards to larger events at different times of the year, like Black Friday or Boxing Day, Click Frenzy, that kind of stuff, we would obviously, like most e-commerce brands, or any retailer, we'd prefer not to cut our margins. Sales are something we'd prefer not to have to run too often, just because we do have exclusive collections and we'd rather at high demand and not be sitting on stock. So as Jason touched on, because there's so much hype and because you're getting extra traffic and extra eyeballs, it is a really good time to launch things or run promotions that don't eat into your margin too much. So we've definitely, over the last few years, looked at those times of years as places to launch new collections. Maybe that's in conjunction with an older collection coming down on sale a little bit, but because you may be getting new customers come to the site because there is a sale, they'll see something new and maybe something's available that hasn't been before, or it's going to be available for a limited time. Like, wow, I've got to get that too, otherwise I'll never get the chance. So reframing those sale periods as launch periods or promotional periods can definitely have a good impact on your conversions or your average cart value. When in the past it might have just been a way to move old stock, you can actually reframe that and use them more productively for your brand.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in here.
Yeah,
real quick. Yeah, we actually got a question from the audience that I think, feel free for anyone here to hop in, but I think Ryan, you might have the particular expertise. It's a longer form, so listen to this. This is from Steve. He's a relatively successful brand that has a sizable wholesale footprint and a growing e-commerce business. He doesn't have a huge social media presence, and that drops limited releases, and which hasn't really worked out for them. But he knows that his customer likes his products a lot, but he doesn't have that reputation yet for scarcity and hype. But he wants to improve this. And so he's asking if you would suggest faking it till you make it when you roll out, hype and, limited product releases, if they don't really generate a lot of sales, or would you suggest a different kind of strategy?
I mean, as I touched on before, we were never in the position to, to fake it. It was just the way our business grew. So scarcity was real in all aspects of the business. We were running on, with very limited resources in terms of not only in product, but all kinds of things. So it was thrust upon us and it worked well. So we kind of built upon that. But in terms of creating that kind of environment within your brand or within your customers, I think empowering them, and something that's worked really well for us is our loyalty programs and exclusive, segmenting your customer base into different tiers and exclusivity levels, giving them a limited amount of customers or your most loyal customers the chance to get in on the ground floor on a product or a collection, helping you design something, with you, not just as a transactional relationship, but as an actual relationship. And then that might be something you don't have to spend a lot of money on developing a smaller collection that's only for these people. and your sell-through rate might be amazing. It might be really efficient, and only those people get it. But because they're your most loyal customers, they're going to tell their friends how amazing this experience was. They got something exclusive, and those people they're telling are going to become, you know, advocates for you as well. And as the more you do that, the greater that impact becomes, and you get more people wanting to be on that level and being involved in that process. So, yeah, even for an existing brand that's got, you know, might be sitting on lots of product and there's no sort of exclusivity or scarcity, you can still implement new initiatives that might be really cost effective, because you don't actually have to produce huge collections, but they're targeted and really ticking a lot of boxes for the customer.
Yeah, wholesale is something that we come across a lot. You know, particularly obviously over the last 12 months, but even before that, where you've had brands that have existed for a number of years and they've been successful using those wholesale channels, but then are now looking to build that relationship direct to consumer. And I think Ryan hit the nail on the head perfectly, that loyalty is one of the best places you can start when you're a brand like that. If you think about and in this example from Steve, where you're talking about, Steve, that you've got some people that are buying on the website and there is that community that you've been able to transition online, you can almost guarantee that that community that have transitioned are probably your most engaged customers, because they've taken that leap from buying in store, you know, whether it's during their regular grocery shop or whatever it might be, to wanting to engage with the brand directly, which is a high intent thing. So those people are probably going to be the most likely to want to join some sort of loyalty program, but long term probably want to build their way up through maybe certain tiers so that they can get exclusive access to things. But the great thing loyalty programs allow you to do is, first of all, do that rewarding of your most valuable customers, but also reward the behavior of them referring friends and sharing that in their communities. I think Moana are a fantastic example. You know, even having done a campaign recently where they got some of the people that were in their highest loyalty tier involved in their latest product drop campaign. You know, they were invited to the photo shoots, they were involved in the marketing. That type of thing creates an amazing narrative for customers to have that conversation offline with their friends or socially, you know, sharing it within their networks, whether it's on their social media or, you know, in private groups and things like that. So it's a hugely powerful thing. If you're a wholesale brand that already has a certain reputation that you're trying to transition online, loyalty can be very effective, and you can be smart about, like, things like with Postscript. Something that we quite often do when it comes to loyalty is actually building a point structure around, you know, giving us maybe your name, your birthday, your mobile number, your email address, creating that full customer picture, and then providing different value via those channels. All of that can be really, really helpful, but it also creates a reason for people to get out of buying your product via a third party and go direct to the brand. The other thing that it does from, I guess, a brand protection point of view is it also allows you to maybe not really annoy your wholesalers. You know, the people that you've built your business off selling to, which are a core customer base of yours, being the people that buy your product at wholesale rates, they're not going to want to see that you're online selling your product at 30%, 40%, 50% off. But having a loyalty program gives you a way to create incentives for customers that don't necessarily undercut your wholesale channels, because the reality is those wholesale customers of yours are also customers. So you can't do something to sort of undercut them just because you're trying to go direct to the consumer. So I think when both those things come together, it allows you to have a very natural go-to-market strategy.
Awesome. Thank you for that, both Ryan and Jason, for those in-depth answers. Steve, let me know in the chat if that answered your question fully. That was a lot of fantastic insight, and we're actually touching on a lot of what we're going to talk about in our last few sections. And on that note, we are a bit running out of time, so about 13 minutes left, and there's a lot of questions in the chat that I want to have answered. So I wanted to just hop back to that really shortly for Gerard to get some quick insight into how you time your SMS and email campaigns.
Yeah, so one, I just love the knowledge that Ryan and Jason have been sharing. It's super fire. Thank you guys. I'm learning a lot myself. And just briefly before I go into timing, I wanted just to add on what they were talking about loyalty and faking it until you make it. I think consumers today really appreciate authenticity, and they can tell when brands are faking it. So you need to change the question you're asking yourself. Like, the level of your success as a brand depends on the type of questions that you ask yourself and where you put your focus on. And so if your consumers aren't generating that level of interest in terms of buying a product launch and selling out, maybe you should start interviewing the top customers in these loyalty programs that they're talking about and getting feedback, so that you're evangelizing these guys even more, and that you can improve your product drops in the future and get them even more engaged. So that's what I'll say on that. In terms of timing, I think you have to think about reaching out to your customers in an omni-channel approach. We've been talking a lot about SMS here, but a lot of brands also have a very strong email channel as well. Maybe they're doing paid social, and you want to make sure that you're touching your audience in all the places that they're at with these different messages. So you don't want to have the same message at the same time go out. So if I have a product drop going out on Friday, I'm not going to send a message and notification Wednesday at the exact same time on SMS and email, but I might send on Wednesday an email. Thursday, I might send out an SMS. Friday, I might do a little bit of retargeting on Facebook for my existing user base, so that they have seen it multiple places, because when they see it multiple places too, it gets ingrained in their brain way better than just one channel, one touch point.
Fantastic stuff. Thanks, Gerard. Steve, let us know if you answer that in timing. Fantastic stuff from everyone involved. Let's hop into the next section, because we have about 10 minutes left, and there's a lot of stuff we have already touched on, but I want to try and merge these last two sections, which are launching new products for existing brands, and similarly keeping customers engaged, especially over a long period of time. If you're a brand that only launches, maybe this is new products 3 times a year, 2 times a year, or whatever it may be, you got to keep that attention span. So for this case, we're going to merge these two. So I think one aspect that can be used for both of these is building mystery. And so Jason and Ryan, I know you both kind of touched on this already, but Jason, would you want to flesh out how to build mystery?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll keep it quick, but there are a couple of really simple things that you can do that can be really effective. Something that I really like as a strategy is this concept of sort of planting Easter eggs around the place. So something that can be really effective is just in your regular sort of marketing. So if you're thinking about maybe posts that you're making on Instagram, or the emails and the SMS that you're sending out, if you maybe doing a focus on a product, an existing product. So you say you might have a model wearing something, or if it's a lifestyle product that could be in a house or something like that, planting your early stage, maybe development versions of your product in those photos in the background. So, maybe you have a model in the front that's wearing the collection that you're promoting at the time, but in the background, there's a different cut or a different piece somewhere. I guarantee you people will notice that stuff. And it's a great way to just plant little things around the place that can stimulate conversation. And then when it comes to keeping people engaged, post a drop, something that's just really low-hanging fruit that not a lot of people do is when you've got your initial marketing campaign, which is promoting the drop, maybe a couple of weeks later, starting to change your campaign focus to being about how that product integrates with the rest of your product collection. Moana is a perfect example where a lot of their products actually go together with previous drops, and they're kind of designed that way. It's a really great way to get potentially a new customer who's come in from that drop introduced to an old product collection or the wider product collection, to be like, hey, you can match this piece with that piece. Or if you've bought, maybe for an electronics brand, if you bought this product allows you to amplify your experience. Remembering to sort of phase into that messaging around, if you've now got bought from this collection, this is how you can add to it or enhance it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, I love little Easter eggs that brand put in, whether it's on a website. As a kid, whenever I played video games, whenever there'd be an Easter egg in a game, those are just super exciting to find. You get to share it with your friends, like, look what I found. And yeah, then it makes you curious as to what else is out there, right? Like, what else is hidden from sight, or what else can you try and dig up? I'm going to hop to Gerard next to discuss similarly launching for existing brands and keeping your customers engaged over a long period of time. Because yeah, well, mystery, it keeps them engaged, but you can't always be super mysterious, right? You got to show them something at some point, right? And so with SMS and email, it's very direct and in their face, which you can still spark mystery, but it's much more. And I want to hear from that angle. Gerard?
Yeah, definitely. So I think there are a lot of different ways that you can get engagement with customers over a long period of time. And going back to what I was saying earlier, your customers are in different places. One of the more innovative ways that I see brands actually start building their SMS list is through Instagrams. So when you set up your Instagram account, you can have a series of menu items, and you can have individual stories within these items that people can swipe up on. You can actually collect phone numbers for specific product launches as a swipe up with SMS and get people subscribed to a list that way. And then, so that's part one. It's what do you do when someone's on the list? The next component is actually building out automation to continue the conversation after the fact. So you need to look at SMS not only just for promotion, but also other touch points to engage people and start up a conversation. There's a brand that I really love called J-Skis. They're a client that's a snowboard manufacturer, and they have a really funny campaign that they send out for user-generated content where they ask their customers to send feet pics because it's people riding snowboards. And what they do is then they use that user-generated content that people text them, and they put that on their Facebook ads for retargeting. They put it on their website as social proof. So that's one way to go about doing it, asking people for user-generated content. The other way is to just leave reviews on the site. What did you think about the product? How can we help? And things along those lines. I think that's really important. And then you can have things like win-back campaigns if they haven't bought in a specific time. You can also collect information like birthday data, and you can send campaigns around that, especially if someone's in a loyalty program. So you want to make sure that you have individual touch points go out, not just for specific promos, but where the customer is at during their customer journey.
I know we're really short on time, but quick example, actually, in terms of birthdays and loyalty there, Gillette razors sent me a razor on my 18th birthday out of nowhere. I don't know how they got my birthday, but they sent me a nice razor, and that was just fantastic. I was like, that's an incredible thing to do for a company. I have no idea why, how, or what, but they did. And
look what happened. You're sharing that story about Gillette with 63 people on the webinar. So they did something.
But I noticed that you do have a beard growing in there, so I don't know how effective.
I've transitioned to the electric kind, unfortunately. Yeah, keep it down. Ryan, let's finish out with you. I know you've talked a lot about having a community of Moana customers and the girls and the tier programs. So if you give us just one ending note, like your biggest takeaway for keeping customers engaged or product launches for brands.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool you wanted to merge the last two sections, I think, is because they're both very relevant to us. And that's involving your customers more in your brand than you probably think you should. And the benefits of that will be tenfold. So our customers, because our business is run in a similar way for such a long period of time with
changes here and there. They're so involved that they know the structure of our launches and our drops, and they know the pathways to get early access or to get, how they're going to succeed in one of those drops. And that is through support with us, engagement, shopping, and loyalty. So the more they give to us, and the more we give back to them, and it's a really sort of close relationship, to the point that some of our more loyal customers have come on photo shoots with us. They're involved in generating content, and they get, out of these shoots, they get free product. They don't have to even buy the new collection because they're involved in the shoot and they get it. So that filters down to to other customers that maybe are almost at that top level, and it's like, oh wow, if I only get a bit more involved and I shop this next drop, then maybe I can be one of those like top tier loyalty girls and be involved closer with the brand. So I think it's just throwing out the old transactional relationship that you might have had with your customer and seeing them as a member of your team and involving them more in a drop or a launch it's been a game changer for us.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we could talk about this for quite some time. Gerard, I know you need to head out, so
hard stop, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the panel. I think these guys are going to continue on for a little bit, but it was a pleasure, and I hope to do another one soon. Take care.
Thanks, Gerard.
Yeah.
I want to hit on one question really quick. I would like to take Aaron's from the chat from a bit earlier, and he wanted to know, how do you guys estimate and forecast demand for a product drop? In many cases, selling out too quickly would have greater, sometimes worse consequences, when restock lead times might be 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the product.
Good question. Something we struggle with every collection. As much feedback as we get from our customers, we do involve them quite a lot in product development. You can never tell which product's going to sell better than others. It's impossible. Something that someone loved when we asked them what they wanted 3 months ago, they might hate now, and something that we never thought would sell out in an instant. So thankfully, over the last 5 to 10 years of operating the business this way, we have a X amount of product that we would like to order for a launch, and we aim to increase that each time, just based on our increasing our customer levels and gradually, hopefully, to increase business over time. So with that said, our forecasts are pretty accurate these days, and if we're forecasting for a launch, we're already ordering for the restock. So luckily for us, we've got a really good relationship with our manufacturer and a really good supply chain. So if something sells out on the launch, we might only be waiting 2 to 3 weeks for that piece to be restocked, which, it's been a kind of ad hoc approach, but in our customers, that's like, it's long enough to drive demand and increase hype, but it's not too long that they get bored of the marketing for that restock. So, but yeah, it's totally a learning process and something that changes every single year with every single collection.
Right on.
It's something that we've seen a lot. We have a brand that we work with in Australia called Muscle Nation, for example. They're massive globally as well. And they're an activewear brand. They sell supplements as well. And there's been a couple of times throughout the years that we've been working with them where we've had what we would characterize as a small drop, because they do a drop every month. And we've done ones before that are maybe like a mini collection or maybe just even a mini restock. And for us, it's sort of just, it's on the calendar, we're going to do it on that day, no worries. And then it just absolutely blows up beyond what we expected. And to your point, you've got people on the site who were there at 7:59, and by 8:02 everything's gone. And people are saying, oh, like I had it in my cart, and then by the time I hit checkout, it was gone. Or like I got a message saying, that it was out of stock and I didn't know what to do. And then by the time I came back and realized everything else in my cart was also sold out. So it's a real problem, but the only way I've ever seen it dealt with successfully, and it's something that I think Muscle Nation have done a great job of doing, is they're very transparent. their customer service team is also in the same building as their warehouse team. So they have the girls from their customer service team on Facebook Live on launch day in the warehouse, showing a genuine legion of people picking and packing, and just being honest with people to say, look, like at the end of the day, we are just a family-owned brand. And we're buying as much stock as we can afford to buy. And look at all these people that we've got in the warehouse packing your stuff and trying to get it out to you. And having that level of transparency and honesty, and then also pushing that message of, we can hear you, we know that you want more of this, we're putting it on the roadmap, the product roadmap right now. And as quickly as you can, trying to have that conversation with the people that did miss out, which you can use segmentation, in PostScript, or maybe if you're using sort of Klaviyo or whatever you might be using for email, to look at those people like Gerard mentioned that did open that campaign, that did click that link, but didn't place an order, and then have the message going back out to them as soon as these are the dates that we're targeting to restock this product. You'll be the first to know. Like Ryan mentioned earlier, fill out the back in stock kind of field that you can have in a product. All of that stuff can give you insight. Another thing that Muscle Nation have started to do now, which we found to be quite effective, is we actually put the product pages up maybe 4 or 5 days in advance, but have all the products out of stock. And then what happens is people just go and bombard those back in stock section, and it almost works as a little mini poll ahead of the actual launch of what is going to be really popular. And that allows even that extra 4 or 5 days to identify, like, oh man, there are way more people signing up for this back in stock in these sizes than we've got available. We can get on social media now and start putting the message out there that, guys, this is only a limited drop. We will do another one in the future, but there's not going to be enough. Do make sure that you're online when it drops, if you have any chance of getting this product. And then you're almost getting ahead of the message, and setting expectations really well. And then you're going to have people that are more understanding. And Muscle Nation's Facebook group, as much as on a launch day, you can guarantee there's going to be comments and posts from people complaining about missing out. Almost all of the overwhelming majority of the comments is actually, the team is amazing. I'm watching the Facebook Live video of all these people like packing orders. We love you guys. And that, like, and a lot of brands actually come to the defense. So customers come to defense to say, they told us that there wasn't going to be much. They told us to be online by 8 a.m. Like, what are you complaining about? You should have been quick like the rest of us were. I think transparency is really the best strategy that you can have.
For sure. Because from our perspective, if you're going to empower your customers to be involved in the development of product and generating that hype and demand, then you can't just drop the ball when you've sold it. You have to go, hey, like, wow, we sold out thanks to you. But please understand, we are still a small business. We're doing the best we can, and involving them at both ends of the spectrum. It creates really strong brand advocates, and we see the same thing in our Facebook group. It's more of a badge of honor if you did get one of those pieces, and people may be upset that they missed out, but they're more jealous and understanding of the team, and like, they work so hard for us, and and which we do, because we're nothing like Muscle Nation. We're a team of 6. So like, and when we do a product launch, no matter what your role in the company is, you drop everything and you're packing orders. And I think it's important to let customers know that, and involve them at both ends, not just drop the ball once you've made the sales.
Yeah, people genuinely do appreciate it. I think a saying that I love is that, like, reasonable people have reasonable reactions, like, so if you're honest with people and you set the right expectation, like Ryan said, people might be disappointed, but rarely are people going to be angry, or they're going to you're not going to maybe lose that customer forever. And you can do things to mitigate that by maybe offering, maybe it is a discount on an existing collection that you've got plenty of stock of, or it is promising early access to some of those people that have missed out, by like looking at people who are filling out that back in stock and things like that, and letting them know, like, you'll be the first to know when this comes back into stock. I think most people are pretty reasonable at that. I can see there's a question as well around if we recommend selling out completely before restocking. It's not something necessarily that I would recommend. I think, if you've got extra stock in a size, it's just an insight into maybe your customers and where your sizing lies. Ryan probably could talk to that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, hey, it would be lovely to sell everything out before we restock, but it never happens. But definitely certain styles across all size ranges might sell out if that's the must-have print or the must-have cut. So yeah, we will typically do very regular restocks just so customers know that in 3 or 4 weeks a restock's coming, no matter what's sold out. And we find interesting things. So say X product sells out, there's still heaps of Y online. People are waiting till X comes back to buy Y because they don't want to pay extra for shipping. So on your second restock, you may see that Y product is the popular one the next time it's sold out, whereas X isn't. So I think it's definitely more valuable to frame a restock in your customer's mind. Like, so it's going to happen around this time period, these many weeks between each restock, so they can plan their shopping instead of just waiting until everything sells out for it to be restocked.
Awesome. Guys, we're about 10 past, so I'm going to have to put a hard stop on this, unfortunately. But that was all fantastic insight. I know. Thank you for responding to the questions in the chat. Thank you to the audience for still 35 in here. So thank you guys for keeping with us. Thank you for the questions. Aaron, for your question earlier on forecasting demand for product dropping, thank you for your question. Let us know in the chat if you're still here. If they answered, we can answer that further. Additionally, if you have any more questions, book a free consultation with Anser. It's Jason's here agency for a full consultation, personal insights into your brand, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we do. We offer audits for free. You don't need to pay for an audit or anything. So yeah, if it's something that you're interested in, jump on the website. We've got plenty of case studies and blogs on how to do this stuff. So if it is something that, if your brand is still at that level where you're trying to do these things yourselves, plenty of insights there as well on things that you can implement yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Someone's just asked how to spell our name. Sorry, it's Andzen, ANDZEN.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And feel free to reach out to Justuno, Moana, or Anser for more insights, because it's been a great topic. I've had a lot of fun here, and I know we can keep talking about this for quite some time, and I mean that in a very good way. Yeah, thank you again, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.